And we hope you're tied on. It's time to get tied on again for Friday action coming your way here at beautiful but soggy Gulfstream Park. Acacia Courtney, Jason Blewett alongside. Joining you, we're dry from our paddock studios. If you're joining us from somewhere in Hallandale Beach or South Florida, we hope you're dry. Mother Nature not cooperating as of now, but it's the hand we're dealt, and the show will go on.
That's it. As you, I believe you're the one that says no wet track blues, right? I think that's the way we have to go today. As you said, we're here in our paddock studios. I'm trying to combat the frizz right now, but we'll power on through. Still going to be a really fun day, and lots of good stuff on tap this
And your hair looks good.
Thank you.
And make no mistake, I'm the prima donna of the two people currently joining you here on Gulfstream today. Again, as Acacia said, we are sloppy and good. We'll deal with whatever Mother Nature throws at us, and obviously you're going to want to keep it locked here on the Gulfstream Park feed throughout the afternoon with track announcer Pete Aiello. Any scratches that come in, if there are any additional ones throughout the program, he'll have for you, of course, and if there's any surface changes to report. But the show goes on, and of course, opening day at Saratoga, and Rudy Rodriguez and the Ortiz boys 1-2 by a long ways in the first at Saratoga.
And what a way to start Saratoga, as things seem to pick up where they left off last year.
Yep. All right, now let's get down to business here. Friday afternoon, and again, as Acacia said, no sloppy track blues today, and we'll try to spicing up your opening day Friday at the spa because we're running at Gulfstream Park, and we want you to jump in and play our free-to-play Beat the Expert contest. I'm up today. The pressure's on, and hopefully I've got some mutters lurking on this 9-race card.
I hope you're good at wet track selections. We've been battling that Beat the Expert curse, but you, Jason, you have won Beat the Expert before, so you do have some backlash to work off in here, but make sure you join in today. 2:15 is our first post this afternoon. You have to have your picks in by then.
And after the racing action caps itself at shortly before 7 p.m. Eastern, Gulfstream Park will really come alive at sunset. Of course, the Sport of Kings will be rocking basically with live music from 7 to 10 p.m. tonight. You can't go wrong with those Friday happy hour food and drink specials as well. It's time to get social at sunset. You may want to bring an umbrella, but hopefully you'll be joining us here at Gulfstream Park. And again, the beauty of these Twilight Fridays, especially now, you've got Toga running, you've got the action at Del Mar, and we're coming up on a huge weekend nationally, but even Arrogate running tomorrow. Cannot wait to see him do his thing.
I'm amazed that they found 5 others to run against him in this San Diego. So, of course, our Pegasus World Cup winner, getting to just see him in the flesh and what an unbelievable animal he is. So, it will be really exciting to see his stateside return to the racetrack.
All right, let's give you a little rundown as far as what's on tap. There were no winners in yesterday's late pick 5. We'll have a little teaser, a little late pick 5 carryover coming your way. Race number 1, which currently has a field of 7, will jumpstart the dollar rolling super high 5, and that will, of course, at around 2:15 coincide with the opening leg of Friday's early pick 5 on the turf here at Gulfstream Park. And just a 9-race Twilight Friday program. Don't know how much sun we'll get on this Twilight Friday, but of course that carryover in the pick 6, the Rainbow 6, comes into full view at more than 275,000.
It is getting up there, and nice carryover in the Rainbow 6 that starts in the 4th race today. 9 races on tap, and as you said, Jason, a carryover in the late pick 5 as well. That'll start in the 5th, 33,800 plus. So don't miss out on that. That is the carryover. Of course, the early pick 5 always a mandatory payout. The late pick 5 does have the potential to carry over, and still kind of rare that we do see a nice carryover like that.
Oh, it is very rare, but I guess we just got enough chaos in 3 of the 5 legs on yesterday's card and ended things with a long shot winner. And my preconceived notions of this time of the year at Gulfstream Park have been shattered in the 2+ months I've been down here. I had a feeling, or at least in my mind, I'm like, it's probably just like a chalk palace, short fields running down there, but it is the antithesis of that. The racing here has been unbelievably competitive, and the fact that we get multiple, it seems, double-digit payoff winners each and every day proves that.
Yes, very big fields will do that. We've got some really big prices. It's kind of an anything can happen. You can't stick with a lot of preconceived notions with races down here in the summer. Difficult to handicap as well, but a lot of fun and a lot of value if you're right.
And there's some quality as well. I mean, we need only take a quick step back to yesterday with the 2-year-old filly by Brethren named Awesome Mass. 81 buyer for her victory.
Very impressive, and Stanley Gold has just been going so well lately, especially with 2-year-olds, and as the sire, Brethren Brethren for Arundel Farm starting to heat up as well. Now 3 runners at Gulfstream with Duncan, Tip Sheet, as well as Awesome Mass. So some nice foals to keep an eye on there, especially as we get closer to the Florida Sire Stakes.
And a bunch of 2-year-old races scattered throughout the weekend locally here at Gulfstream Park as we dive into the Twilight Friday opener. Again, if we have any changes, we'll report them to you. As of now, though, we're sloppy and good as the card begins with a 5-furlong turf race. This is a 3-and-up $16,000 claimer, and this begins what could be a very, very profitable. It'll be a busy day no matter what for trainer David Fox and his team. He's got runners in races 1, 4, 5, and 8. Perhaps the best chance for the barn is in the opener with the big drop down, and you need to decide what you want to do with Maps and Legends.
You do. Well, I did use her on the pick 5, but I did not single her. I'm going to use him, excuse me. I'm going to use a couple others in here, including the current favorite, or 2 favorites taking the early money, Silent Drifter and Jack of Diamonds. So 3 to kick things off. Then just going to go with 2, and it's a maiden 12-5 in the second leg. I am hesitant by just using 2 in there, but trying to keep things on the more affordable side. Same thing in the third. I'm using the 2 most logical, I think. The fourth race is a fun starter allowance. I'm going to use another Dave Fox runner in Dancing Queenie, along with the number 6 Truge back on the dirt for Leo Gabriel Jr. Then using 3 in a really nice maiden special weight in the 5th. That's also where the late pick 5 starts. So going to use 3 horses there for the overlap, $36 to start. But as you said, Maps and Legends now second off the layoff. Really, he does have a lot to prove today, but that was a big effort off the bench last time.
But it does seem, coming off that layoff, and geez, what was it? It was like 4 or 5 days shy of a 12-month layoff.
Yeah.
It seems like even with that good race, and this is a 3-year-old by City Zip, paid 60 G's for him at auction, you get him back off a year layoff. He runs a very solid race here on June 29th, just a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden, right in for 16,000. I don't like that.
I don't either. We will backtrack to that last race last time out. This was on the 29th. As you said, it was first off the bench. He was the number 3 that day. He was quickly up to challenge Classic Move, who was the 1. You can see him kind of retreating at that point. And I thought that this horse was a little green right there. We'll just freeze right there because I want to highlight how his head with that big blaze.
I love the blaze. I love that cow face.
He's got great markings, so keep an eye on that, and we'll let it roll just now through the wire. But I thought that the way that his head was kind of turned, how he was kind of obstinate in switching leads as they're coming down to the wire, obviously showed the greenness off of the layoff. But still, he was just beaten by half a length. He's going to add the blinkers on today, perhaps a little bit for that distraction in the stretch. I agree, though, the drop is a question.
Yeah, it seems like the Claim Me sign is really out here in boldface neon colors with the number 3 Maps and Legends. Put him second. You still picked him on top despite your reservations, and I get that. He's just the horse to beat, and his last will probably win if he can cut back successfully as well to 5 furlongs. I'll take the horse you've got second, the number 5 Silent Drifter. C.J. McMahon rode this horse unbelievably well last time, and Tyler Gaffleone is coming out of a rare winless day here at Gulfstream Park on Thursday. He'll be aboard. He's got his work cut out for him because CJ basically pocketed this horse up, sat the trip inside, and scooted along the rail. And boy, oh boy, did he lose a tough one to Zeus Odin.
He did. And CJ does stick with Maps and Legends, and he and Dave Fox have been teaming up quite a bit lately. A pop for Silent Drifter, I think a plus for this one is that his only win did come on a sealed, sloppy track. So if we see track conditions continue the way they are, that was at the fairgrounds, but maybe that wet track background will help him today.
Hope so for Ron Fauché. On to race number 2. You talked about this one in your early pick 5 play. 3-and-up filly and mares, 12-5 maiden claimers. We've got a field of 7, no scratches to report. I didn't really know who to go with in here, and off that, I'm hoping there's some speed. Now, the 5, Missed His, who you've got second and I've got fourth, may control. You may get a little early ambition as well from the 4, Audio Chic. I'm going to take the 2 outside runners, and I'm hoping this race just kind of incinerates the 7, Ola Princess for me, who's turning back, and I think she's going to run well going turf to dirt in a race. She probably won't get an easier field to to break her maiden against, and the same goes for each and every one of these fillies.
It's so true. You have Ola Princess, who's 0 for 12. Right next to her, Naughty Grace is 0 for 20. My top selection, Audio Chic, is 0 for 23. I actually saw the race as Audio Chic potentially dictating the pace. I like to see Miguel Vasquez in the saddle. He's been riding in excellent form lately, so that's what gave her the nod for me. In this field, I agree Ola Princess on the turn back in distance. Actually, her race 2 back on the dirt, I think, could potentially win this, but it's all going to be who shows up and who gets in the good position early on.
And showing up, one of my old friends from up in the Big Apple, Naughty Grace, still looking for that maiden diploma. She does have a chance, though. I've got her second for trainer Jenna Antonucci, but there you go. That's your field for race number 2. Back to the turf we go with another scheduled grass race, and a number of them are running, scheduled for the turf today at 5 furlongs. We've got a field of 8 after scratches, and very few scratches as of now on this Friday card at GP. 3 and up, 12-5 maiden claimer, and a case, and you talked about Audio Chic maybe dictating things in race number 2. That seems to be the real appeal with the number 4, John's Approval, who's probably going to be, in a way, an underlaid favorite, because it does, at least on paper, it looks like this gelding by Colonel John with Tyler G is just going to be out there doing his thing.
You know, he was beaten as a favorite last time, but it was just by a neck. He showed the speed last time. He was bet down 90 cents to the dollar, but I think he's been in very good form, and it's also encouraging that his 2 races prior to that, in the event that this race might be taken off the turf on the sealed sloppy track, were very strong performances. He took money in both of those. I think he's coming into pretty good form after switching into this barn, so the speed will do it for me. The other, I thought, major player in here was to the outside in the 10, Don't Quit, but does have to deal with an outside post and just going the 5 furlongs. Had a trouble at the start last time and finished behind next repeat winner, Francesco Fishing, so I thought that those were the big 2 in here.
Yeah, I did as well. 410 for Acacian myself, as the outside runner Don't Quit does get to move in a couple of spots with the 2 scratches immediately to his inside for a very good trainer who's been on a good run here at Gulfstream Park, and Victor Barboza Jr., who we'll see a bit later in the day. We will also see Acacia's Friday Rainbow 6 ticket on the other side of this quick timeout. Don't go anywhere.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Hey, South Florida, it's time to get social at sunset. This summer at Gulfstream Park, as the sun goes down, the scene heats up. Join us each week for Twilight Fridays, a fusion of horse racing, food and drink specials, and live performances by local bands. Enter drawings and play horse racing bingo, your chance to win incredible prizes. Live racing begins at 2:15. Admission and parking are free. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for more details. Gulfstream Park, Twilight Racing Fridays. Get social at sunset.
That opening pick 3 in the books here on this Friday live edition of Gulfstream Today. Once again, coming to you from our paddock studios, bone dry, and the rain has tapered off. We are sloppy and good. Glad you're with us here. A lot going on, of course, throughout the country. Del Mar in action. They kicked off their admission gates on Wednesday. Opening day card at Saratoga is well underway. And what are we doing? I want to know what the play is in today's Rainbow Six.
Well, we have a really nice carryover in there, $275,000 plus. So stepped it up a little bit, but I did still have a single. Everything for me is going to hinge off of Diaz in race number 7. Not being incredibly creative, making him my best bet of the day, but I think that he's just in excellent form. He's scratched out of a stake. They decided to run him here instead. I think he's in the perfect spot. I'm going to kick things off with the same 2 horses I used in the pick 5 with Dancing Queenie and Truge. Spreading in the 5th race, I wanted in the Rainbow 6 to use a little bit more coverage because I think that's a very competitive, very strong race. 3 deep in the 6th, that's a state-bred maiden claiming 3-year-olds. Another nice field in there, though. Diaz in the 7th is my single for Tammy Levy. 4 in the 8th and 3 in the nightcap, 57.60.
And that Diaz looks like he'll be a big favorite. He's a tick above even money on the morning line, Jay Stone's morning line at Gulfstream Park, and he has just turned into a real powerhouse who knows what it takes and likes to cut it close, but he loves winning those close races. We'll see if he can win 4 in a row. Rainbow Six again begins millions with the 4th, and this is a very tricky, my only notes on this one, very tricky, tough race. Now, you and I basically see the same 4 horses in eye-to-eye fashion. I didn't know who to start with here, but I wound up picking the one Dancing Queenie, and clearly I was not anticipating moisture, but given her first race, wet track's not a problem for her.
Yeah.
And she's lightly raced. And I like that they ran her for the 35. She did what she was supposed to do as a big favorite last time out. So perhaps you're getting a filly who quite simply is headed this way. And I love that they don't run her back in a claiming race.
Yes, I like that too. I like that she's protected in here. She's a 3-year-old by Big Drama. She won by 8 lengths last time out to break her maiden. And the comment is that she stumbled at the start. She did trip a little bit coming out of the gate, and then 6-7 wide. There were actually only 2 to her inside. She was drifting a little bit on her own accord in the stretch, probably just a little bit of greenness. So you have to imagine that she would improve today.
And she was still green in her debut,
and she
not to
definitely
cut you
was
off.
debut.
Yeah, it does seem like she's a work in progress.
She certainly is.
But maybe with them just running her for 35, she's also been kind of a pleasant surprise where she's a little better than Dave Fox and his team originally thought she was. And now, again, she's protected and not without a big chance, even though she spots your top pick quite a bit of seasoning.
She does, and Truge does have 2 wins to her name. Now, last time out, I was actually interested of what she would do on the turf, because there is a fair bit of turf breeding on the bottom side for her. And Leo Gabriel Jr., I remember him saying beforehand, before the race, saying, all right, well, let's see if this makes me look smart. That didn't work out on the turf. He puts her right back on the dirt where she's comfortable, and she won on a sealed sloppy track 2 starts back. And Leo Gabriel Jr. and Luca Panici have really teamed up for some nice wins together.
Yeah, Luca's riding very well. Turf, dirt, you name it. He really has a good head on his shoulders, tactically speaking, strong finisher. He is the complete package in a very good colony that not only is dominated by Tyler Gaffalione and Edgar Zayas. I really, really like what I've seen from Luca P, and I know you agree. On to race number 5, here we go. Late pick 5 gets underway, and that's the neat thing with these Twilight Fridays. With just a rare 9-race card around here, you've got the cash out in the early one, the beginning of the late pick 5, and the second leg of the Rainbow 6. I'll give you a little rundown as to what's on tap with my ticket, and much like Acacia's Rainbow, I'm going to stand alone with Diaz, who I've really become a fan of. He runs often, very gritty game horse who seems to have a big heart, and to be honest about it, Tammy Levy just has him breathing fire. I was amazed, and you had used 3 in race number 6, Acacia, in your Rainbow, how tough the 6th race came up for a Florida-bred maiden claimer. There's no layoff, like drop-down layover in there, I should say. It's a very deep race. Again, in the 7th race, we'll stand alone with Diaz. I thought ultimately Battle Tux, who's been pretty good, and Faith and Hope were just a little sharper and a little better than the competition in the 8th. And if we can get to the 9th here and we're still on the turf, which we hope we are, I'm going to use Kathleen O'Connell's horse Engrave with Gaffalione, and I do like the 6th Classic Charlotte turning back to a 5-furlong dash on the grass. I just think in hindsight, 7.5 most recently was a little too far for her. So let's talk about the 5th Acacia. This is a very competitive race, by the way, as we start that late pick 5 with the $33,000 carryover. Back to David Fox for me, who again has got legit chances in races 1, 4, and 5 today. He's got Our Precious inside. I'm hoping she just blasts off and gets away from potential speeds that could hound her, like the number 10 horse, Take a Stroll. Not an easy spot, but Our Precious for me.
I agree, and I think that this is definitely the speed. She's got the inside post going 5 furlongs. A race on the sloppy track last time was actually very good and ran against some tough competitions 2 starts back. Now, I'm surprised you didn't pick Jonathan Thomas in here. I know you're a fan, but I did land on the firster, Tilly's Lily. As far as turf breeding goes, the dam was a stakes winner and graded 3 place, 2-time turf winner, and she's kin to Ultimate Cause, who did win on the turf as well. So I think the work tab, the way the barn has been going lately, all point to maybe a strong firster in
and
here.
we see how well you're prepped and you did your work. We'll bring up the bullets here just to reiterate in print basically all the nice pedigree nuggets you brought up with this filly by Distorted Humor.
Sorry to take away some of the
No,
steam.
not at all. No, absolutely not. I love it. I just you're always prepared, always in a great mood, and a pleasure to co-host the show with.
Thank you.
And it's nice to see Jonathan Thomas on a very nice run. In fact, we've got the numbers, much like these pedigree nuggets, to back up the statement of Jonathan Thomas is in a groove right now. We saw yet another firster win out of his barn here yesterday in Catholic Bull. boy, and that brought his current Gulfstream Park record over the last 90 days to a gaudy 6 for 8 overall, 7 for 13. This is just a trainer who I think is gotten some good stock from some high-profile outfits, and B, is just getting his horses in the right spots and bringing them over here in tip-top health.
They do. They all look very well prepared and very well put together. And as you said, there's some lovely pedigrees there and obviously some high price purchase, but he does do a very good job preparing them. Now, the number 10, Take a Stroll, I wanted to backtrack to this filly's performance 2 starts back when sprinting, going 5 furlongs. So they tried stretching her out to a mile last time, and she was just, I think, in over her head and didn't take to the distance. But this was going 5 furlongs on the second. She was about 4 wide early to the number 5 that day. It looked like kind of everybody wanted the lead in this race. And then if we could just freeze right there, want to draw attention there in the white bridle. She's the number 5 in between horses. So in a tough position there, as we'll just let it roll now. She was going after little Christina, who's the number 3, who did end up winning. I just remember thinking that she looked fantastic last time. So I love the turn back in distance where she's clearly more comfortable.
Yeah, this reminds me in a way, certainly a faster horse, but reminds me of why I like Classic Charlotte in today's 9th race. 7.5 on the turf, just too far. Back to the basics, 1 turn going short. And boy, oh boy, I mean, she put a legit scare and hung on gamely behind that winning 1-9 favorite, 2 back in Little Christina. Again, our Precious looks pretty logical. 1-5-10 for Acacia and myself in race number 5. That means we can continue on. Race number 6 on the card, and this is this Florida-bred maiden claimer that you and I found maybe tougher than you might expect. I'm assuming, and I don't know this for a fact, there's got to be at least a few connections, like Angel Rodriguez off the claim with the 1 Barroom Bouncer, maybe Ralph Nix with Double Down Drama, Kathy Ritvo and the 7 Go Gone Gone. Let's see this race in the book. We'll drop our horse there. We'll be a big favorite, get a win, and that'll be great. Everybody, it seemed like, relatively speaking, wound up in this one. You've got 3 or 4 legit contenders.
It's true. There are some big players in here, and a couple places to start. We can look at the last race, or the debut race, for the number 1 Barroom Bouncer when starting for Victor Barbosa Jr. Was beaten just by 3/4 of a length on debut. Nice looking, the number 7 that day. Nice looking, pretty good sized 3-year-old gelding in here. Edgar Diaz is going to be aboard first off the claim for a very sharp barn first off the claim. Now, did hop up very slightly out of the gate, but all in all, I thought a very big performance from this one, dueling with Fort Liberty, who is the number 6 and a horse that had seasoning edge in here. So I thought big performance from debut.
As Ralph Nix squares off against Barroom Bouncer a second time, it was Ralph's drop down. Fort Liberty was a big favorite at 4-5, who after a really desperate stretch battle finally put Barroom Bouncer away in deep stretch. Wet Track should be right up his alley, being by Put It Back out of a light diffuse dam. I mean, some serious deep cuts, if you will. New York horses back in the day seeing Put It Back and Light the Fuse in the immediate pedigree. Now, the 4 Double Down Drama has got this stat in his favor. I mean, there's a few just kind of what you see is what you get, basic handicapping angles, I think, in the mix with this gelding by Big Drama. And this certainly gives me some encouragement that trainer Ralph Nix has done well, and I think that shows intention. Give a horse a race back off the bench, maybe to shake off the ring rust, and then second off the bench, dropping down in a maiden claiming company, it is go time, and that's worked obviously at a high percentage as this horse Acacia comes out of a narrow loss against Sweat, who looks like a pretty good horse for Arundel and Stanley Gold.
He does. After that first asking, or win at first asking, they did put him in against some really tough runners, and it looks like he does have some talent there. They obviously thought highly of this horse at the beginning, the connections that is, because he debuted in a $60,000 stake at Tampa, actually. Didn't really run a step in that race, but he certainly did show some improvement off of the layoff last time, and I really think that he's live. To the outside, the 7 Go Gone Gone dropping down for Kathy Ritvo definitely looks like pace, and the speed is going to be his key angle.
And second time with Luca riding in a spot where it looks like this horse is going to be a major factor. He is a must-use and very dangerous. They are the big 3, but again, and we don't know this, I'm assuming the connections of each of those horses were pretty surprised at just how tough today's 6th race came up. Back to the turf we go, and this is the one race on today's card. Not that you'd get rich betting Diaz to win, even for a deuce, but I've been looking forward to this horse who's really become one of my favorites currently running in South Florida by virtue of the fact that he's got 3 consecutive wins, all by neck margins, and just even looking at his last race, just refuses to lose. I mean, he's got that late surge just to get up first on the wire.
He does. He's as game as they come. His last 2 races were at Gulfstream. We'll backtrack to that most recent one. On June 22nd, he was the number 9 that day. Before we start, I want to highlight the number 5, DeCraziness, who did finish 2nd. He held on very gamely, and we'll just let it roll from the quarter pole. So Diaz is closing while DeCraziness was up front. And again, he held on and just would not really give up, really, but talk about not giving up. Diaz just kept on coming. Very, very game performance from him again.
Yeah, he's been a terrific $10,000 claim for trainer Tammy Levy, who I wasn't all that familiar with before I arrived in South Florida, but you can count me as the barn's biggest fan because this is an awesome job. This is not the only horse we've seen of hers that has really overachieved and held solid, consistent form on a race-by-race basis. And keep in mind, this horse got himself eligible for these starter races, these starter optional claimers back in June of 2016, and I like the fact that they just haven't gotten too cute with them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they scratched him out of the Mechie here a few weeks ago just to find a better spot that he really fits snugly. He does have rain-softened turf to compete with today. That might be the one gray area, but he seems like just a tough pro that would run over anything. LaSalle for you and I in the 2nd spot, as I was encouraged in a big way. Speaking of Leo Gabriel Jr., second off the claim, he's got one earlier you talked about in Truge. This horse really ran giant for the barn most recently.
He did, and this was actually a claim back, so clearly Leo Gabriel Jr. really, and Diamond Racing really did like this horse. He was a big price last time behind Perfect Hay, another horse who's been in very good form, and he ran exceptionally well.
Yeah, Perfect Hay is tough. I'd say probably a pretty good race, Perfect Hay against Diaz. Maybe one day down the line this summer meet, those two will wind up in the same spot. To the main we go, our last scheduled dirt race on the card. It's for 3 and up, Philly Mare, non-winners of 1 allowance optional claimer runners, $43,000 purse. And again, the more I looked at this race, and she's likely going favored, but I felt the 3, Faith and Hope, with her good cruising speed, was just a little sharper than anybody else, and I'm going to put her as an obvious major logical player over the number 2, Battle Tux, who maybe is on the upswing after kind of going off form during the championship meet. Her last, clearly a step in the right direction.
I think so, too. We'll show that last race for Battle Tux. Now, her race 2 starts back on the sloppy track. She was a distant 2nd, but she did manage to get 2nd. So this is on the 15th. She was the number 2 that day. Now, she sat just behind the speed, and as she was rounding the turn, she was kind of behind horses, just waiting for room, and she has to kind of push between. I thought it was very game from her. Tyler Gaffleon will just freeze right there. So you can see she has to kind of go in between these horses right there, and we'll just go down to the wire. Now, the speed of Faith and Hope, she finished 2nd, 2 starts back in the Liza Jane behind Our Angel Caitlin, who I think was just way and above the horse to beat that day. Both of these horses, I think, are in good form. I just really liked that race from Battle Tux.
All right, we've got the 7 surprise wedding in the mix. 2nd for you, 3rd for me, capping a 3-2-7 try. And if you're taking the optimistic view of this David Fox trained filly by High Cotton, maybe she's the one who's the real sort of unfinished product going into the 8th.
She could be, and I have kind of an affinity for this filly. I loved her performance in the My Dear Girl 2 starts back. She was kind of overshadowed by her stablemate Cajun Delta Dawn. She ran huge that day. Thought she kind of had it in the bag in the juvenile sprint at Gulfstream Park West. Our Angel Caitlin, of course, did show up, so we'll see 2nd off the bench.
And there is a 2-year-old firster out of this dam, a half-to-surprise wedding running here Sunday afternoon for trainer Stephen Dwoskin, if you want to check that out. Number of 2-year-old races both tomorrow and Sunday. A pleasant surprise in that department, and they look pretty good.
They're always fun. Always fun to see what's going on in there.
All right, well, hopefully we'll have some fun cashing your Rainbow Six play here as the finale, the curtain comes down on this Twilight Friday with the 9th race. 3 and up, Philly Mare, 12-5 maiden claimers. They will meet number of races today, going 5 on the turf, and the the number 2 engraved, probably going to take some beating as Tyler Gaffalione jumps aboard a horse who at times has burned her share of money, including 2-back.
She certainly has. Now, 2-back was on the dirt. She's going to stick on the turf this time. I think her turf races are a little bit stronger. She finally did drop to the 12.5 level. She didn't run against anything super special last time, but I do think that she's got enough talent for Kathleen O'Connell.
And my idea with the 6 Classic Charlotte was much like the Stroll filly earlier in the day for Reeves and Kathy Ritvo. 7.5, just too far. Her race is going 5, while not super, I think, fit in this field and the cast that she's facing in the 9th race. I do see you've got For the Fam in the mix, so I had taken a look at, hoping to find a good stat for trainer Marcial Navarro. I couldn't do it, but second-time starter might be the way to go. Certainly a defensive use here in the nightcap.
Could be. I couldn't find any stats either, but I did see the mare with stakes place and a 4-time turf winner. She also gets Lasix and Jaramillo, so some positive things to look at.
No sloppy track blues today.
No sloppy track blues.
Never. We're at the racetrack. We're glad you're with us again as this Friday card rolls full steam ahead from beautiful Gulfstream Park. Acacia, Ron, myself joining you shortly before the first. And without further ado, we'll bring on track announcer Pete Aiello for that opening set of Scratches and Changes.